Where have the Chinese tourists gone? The industry analyzes the plummet of Chinese overseas travel. Salary cuts spread across China. Public discontent boils over. The big moves by the Chinese Communist Party to boost confidence have failed. Young man breaks down and scolds Xi Jinping in front of police. Why did China become like this? All will be covered in China undercover. Young man breaks down and scolds Xi Jinping in front of the police. Why did China become like this? On July 26, a video from Mirror Weekly gained widespread attention. In the video, it appears that the young man had a breakdown at an identity checkpoint in a public place, facing several policemen. He exhibited extreme anguish and despair, shouting, "Why did you turn China into this state?" He also furiously banged on the check table, crying to the police, "Just arrest me already. I can't take it anymore." With a trembling voice, he desperately yelled, "Otherwise, if I don't do this today, I'll regret it when I jump off a building." At this moment, some onlookers tried to console him by saying, "Don't be angry! Don't be angry! Don't be angry! Don't be angry, young man!" However, the young man turned around and picked up a plastic stool, violently hitting his head, which caused shock among the onlookers. Currently, the social environment in China has worsened, and young people are facing tremendous pressure in areas like education, employment, work, and starting a family. The youth unemployment rate has reached record levels. According to a professor from Peking University, the youth unemployment rate could be as high as 46.5. The phenomenon of involution has made them unable to see any way out. Achieving life goals such as finding a job, buying a house, and getting married seems impossible, leading them to a sense of despair and disillusionment about the future. Words like lying flat, opting out, and four-nose youth have become popular, demonstrating the despair of young people towards the authorities and the current reality. Four-nose youth refers to young people who don't date, don't marry, don't buy a house, and don't have children. According to an official survey in Guangzhou, the number of four-nose youth accounts for nearly 1/10 of the population of the same age group. Some even refer to the result of four-nose youth as generation of women without offspring. In a video posted on National Renaissance Network on July 27, a woman said that this is the most brutal and resolute revolution and resistance in human history. It is the generation of women without offspring, without a mortgage, without a car loan, and without the next generation. They don't work, don't buy houses, don't get married, and don't have children. Since they cannot eliminate the exploiting class, they might as well self-destruct and go down together with the exploiting class. I never thought that after thousands of years of hardships, the Chinese nation, which no external force could destroy, would ultimately be destroyed by its own hands, the woman said. She described this generation of Chinese youth as the most resolute, bravest, and most fearless. Since the combined power of authority, capital, and technology is unbeatable, she decided, "I won't revolt or resist anymore. I'll annihilate myself along with my descendants. What can you do to me?" She further stated that no matter how powerful the combined force is, at most, it can kill people. But you can never bring the dead back to life. Now, I don't want to be exploited by you, so I'm lying flat. Finally, the woman said, "I don't want my descendants to be exploited by you either, so I won't have children. I won't come again in my next life. This is the last testament of the exploited crop." Where have the Chinese tourists gone? The industry analyzes the plummet of Chinese overseas travel. On May 16, 2023, a group of Chinese mainland tourists visited Hong Kong. Despite the anticipation that a large number of Chinese people would eagerly travel overseas after the Chinese government relaxed pandemic restrictions at the end of 2022, the reality has been different. Several factors have contributed to this, including reduced international flight capacity, declining incomes for Chinese citizens, and deteriorating relations between China and Western countries. According to CNBC's report on July 25, Wolfgang George Arlt, the CEO of the Chinese Outbound Tourism Research Institute, stated that the desire for outbound travel among Chinese people has decreased due to insufficient affordable flight options and long waiting times for overseas travel visas. Skift Research recently released a 2023 Travel Outlook report, which revealed that although China's domestic aviation industry has recovered, International flight capacity remains less than half of pre-pandemic levels, resulting in a reduction of nearly 5 million seats. The economic slowdown following the pandemic has led Chinese tourists to tighten their spending. Alt mentioned, due to the economic slowdown, Chinese people are more cautious in their expenditures. According to the Skift report, travel ranked as the third highest category for increased expenditure among Chinese consumers following dining out and healthcare. However, only 80 of respondents stated that they plan to increase their travel expenses. Additionally, record high unemployment rates among Chinese youth have made it difficult for young people to afford international travel. In contrast, young people in other countries, such as millennials and Generation Z, are actively engaging in international travel. Moskowitz stated, while flights to the Middle East and North Africa have seen significant recovery compared to pre-pandemic levels, flights to North America, especially the United States and Canada, have seen the slowest recovery. This is due to the deterioration of China's relations with the West. He pointed out that the conflict in Ukraine has further exacerbated the international travel issue, as North American airlines cannot fly over Russian airspace, resulting in longer flight times and higher costs for flights between the U.S. and China. Salary cuts spread across China. Public discontent boils over. China's economy is facing a difficult situation, and the authorities have been issuing a flurry of documents in an attempt to salvage it. However, the public has been mocking these efforts, saying they only know how to issue documents, not provide financial assistance. Meanwhile, foreign investments are rapidly withdrawing, and salary cuts are spreading across various sectors, leading to public discontent. Experts believe that the Chinese authorities are indeed at a loss. The latest official data shows that all three pillars of China's economy, exports, investments, and consumption, have stalled. In response to the economic downturn, the authorities have been issuing numerous documents trying to encourage private enterprises to be more proactive and stimulate economic growth. Economist Davy Jun Huang, based in the United States, stated on July 22 that the main reason for the contraction of the private economy is the Chinese Communist Party's continuous policy of favoring state-owned enterprises and squeezing the operating space of private enterprises According to a report in the New York Times on July 24, private business owners interviewed privately dismissed the Chinese Communist Party's encouraging words as unbelievable. The economic recession has directly led to a decrease in government revenue, prompting attention to the issue of salary cuts for civil servants. In mid-July, the topic of Guangdong civil servants collectively reducing salaries by 25 trended on social media. Weibo user Bovar Tianhe Gongkaio Sun Ziteo stated on July 11 that several friends from Guangdong confirmed the salary cuts, saying, "What's most distressing is that they will also recoup part of the money from your future wages." The extent of the reduction varies slightly in different areas of Guangdong, but it's generally around 20 to 30. Earlier, in late June, it was reported that civil servants in several provinces, including Guangdong, Zhejiang, and Jiangsu, faced salary cuts of around 20 to 30s and the elimination of various additional subsidies. However, these articles were quickly removed. In addition to civil servants, teachers in many regions of China are also facing substantial salary cuts. In Shenzhen and Yantai Development Zone in Shandong, the reduction in salaries has reached 30s. In May, Shanghai Pudong Development Bank employees protested collectively due to dissatisfaction with the salary cuts. According to some employees, their monthly salaries were reduced from 20,000 to 30,000 yuan to only 6,000 to 7,000 yuan. Doctors and healthcare workers are also experiencing salary reductions, with more than 60 of medical staff reporting salary cuts in a non-anonymous poll in June. The reductions are estimated to be around 35 or more in some cases. Experts believe that China is facing an overall and severe economic crisis, and the government's revenue has dwindled, leading to widespread salary cuts for civil servants, teachers, medical staff, and other sectors. The situation has caused a lack of confidence among the public, foreign investors, and even the Chinese Communist Party itself. The big moves by the Chinese Communist Party to boost confidence have failed. People's trust has plummeted, and the internal economic cycle is on the verge of collapse. After the release of the 31 measures aimed at supporting the private economy, the Chinese stock market remained lukewarm, and public ridicule abounded. For example, a widely circulated comment on social media was, "No money, no coupons, just documents." This represents the general sentiment and common voice in Chinese society, describing the 31 measures and related policies to boost consumption as mere empty promises with no substance. It implies that the leadership of the Chinese Communist Party is facing serious economic risks, but is unwilling to implement any meaningful and substantial policies, resorting only to empty slogans and propaganda to boost confidence among private enterprises and the public. Especially during the Central Economic Work Conference and the discussion with non-party members on July 24. Although the conference documents no longer emphasize the previous year's slogan of housing is for living, not for speculation, they did acknowledge the declining confidence in private enterprises and consumption and the near collapse of the internal economic cycle. However, they continued to emphasize ideological work to mobilize entrepreneurs with as many as 6 of the 31 measures, insisting on the party's leadership over the entire private sector, while being reluctant to recognize their own political mistakes or rectify the unjust treatment of entrepreneurs. They also showed unwillingness to legally safeguard private property and rights, and failed to adopt concrete measures to ensure fundamental issues related to healthcare, education, and welfare. People can see only a self-interested group obsessed with security anxieties, being generous externally but stingy internally. While being audacious and provoking neighboring countries, they seem helpless and have no viable solutions to address economic issues and are unwilling to make even the slightest concessions. However, the situation today is vastly different from what it was in the past. The 31 measures are not dealing with survivors of the famine from 60 years ago. They're facing a massive private sector and middle-income class that has been nurtured and formed over the past 40 years of reform and opening up. It is not as simple as a large tail that won't fall off, and empty slogans or systemic rhetoric of ideological work won't deceive people anymore. Chinese billion level funds have incurred losses of over 70 in returns. According to data from Tonghua Shun iFind, as of July 25th, among the 39 actively managed equity funds, including QDI, with assets exceeding billions by the end of the second quarter, only 10 funds have positive returns for the year, while over 70 of the billion-level funds have suffered losses. Among the losing funds, 8 of them have seen net asset value losses exceeding 10, with the highest loss exceeding 20. Due to the popularity among investors, the performance fluctuations of these related funds have attracted considerable attention. For example, China Europe Medical Health, which once attracted many investors through innovative pharmaceuticals, has experienced poor performance. As of July 25th, the net asset value of China Europe Medical Health A has suffered a loss of 15.24 for the year, ranking relatively low among its peers. The Guangfa Tech Pioneer, which is heavily invested in new energy, has also been bought by many investors, but its net asset value has suffered a significant loss of 22.76 for the year. Another Guangfa fund managed by fund manager Xing Chenggran, Guangfa High-End Manufacturing A, which is heavily invested in photovoltaics, has incurred a loss of 21.97 for the year. Among other billion-level funds with significant investments in new energy, Nongyin New Energy Theme A has suffered a loss of 9.33 for the year, and Dongfang New Energy Automobile Theme has incurred a loss of 11.84. Among the billion-level consumer theme funds, the popular Yinhe Wealth Theme has suffered a loss of 13.71 for the year, and Invesco Great Wall Emerging Growth has incurred a loss of 10.17 for the year. According to the International Financial News, among the aforementioned billion-level funds, the larger the fund size, the higher the probability of incurring losses for the year. Among the top 10 billion-level funds in terms of size, only 3 funds have positive return. Among them, both China Europe Medical Health SC shares have suffered losses exceeding 15 for the year, and Invesco Great Wall Emerging Growth A has incurred a loss of over 10. Apart from Full Goal, Tianhui, Hui Shenfu, and Noah Growth, the remaining funds have incurred losses to varying degrees. Typhoon affected 730,000 people in Fujian. People's Daily was arrested for falsification. Typhoon Du Suirui, the 5th typhoon of this year, made landfall in Fujian province. Currently, at least 730,000 people have been affected in Fujian, with severe impact reported in the city of Quanzhou, where at least 39 people have been injured. However, State media People's Daily was caught fabricating images when reporting on Typhoon Suirui, leading to exposure by mainland netizens. Fujian Province. 730,000 people affected, 1.3 million households without power. Severe impact in Quanzhou according to mainland media. As of 2:00 p.m. on July 28, Typhoon Suirui has caused over 724,600 people to be affected in 84 counties across 9 prefecture-level counties across 9 prefecture-levels, including Xiamen, Zhangzhou, and Quanzhou. Emergency relocation of over 124,400 people has been carried out. The direct economic loss is estimated to be 52.27 million yuan, approx. 8.1 million USD, and more than 1.3 million households are currently without power. Further assessments of the disaster are ongoing. Quanzhou, in particular, has been severely impacted. As of 1:30 p.m. on the 28th, 1132 reports of emergencies have been received, and 287 rescue teams with over 32,000 personnel have been dispatched for rescue operations, along with 5,100 vehicles. Many buildings in Quanzhou have been damaged, including 1 hospital, 2 schools, 11 structures, 3 tourist attractions, and 5-star rated hotels. Additionally, 6 buildings have been flooded, and 394 houses have been damaged, with 62 billboards falling. From the afternoon of July 28 to the 29th, the heavy rain will mainly affect Fujian, Zhejiang, Jiangxi, Anshui, Jiangsu, and Shanghai. From the night of the 29th to August 1, the heavy rain will mainly impact Henan, Shandong, Jinji. It was reported that Typhoon Suirui will enter Jiangxi on the 29th early morning and remain there for 8 hours. And locally, there will be heavy rain. While Typhoon Suirui is wreaking havoc, Typhoon Kanu is also on its way. It was reported that Typhoon Kanu, the 6th typhoon of this year, was generated in the eastern waters of the Philippines on the early morning of July 28. Its intensity is gradually increasing, and it is expected to approach the waters near the southeastern part of China and may impact the sea areas and coastal regions there. Analysis. Why China implements Recognize the House, not the loan policy to boost real estate market will fail. According to a report by China's official media, Securities Times on July 28, Minister of Housing and Urban Rural Development, Ni Hong, emphasized the adoption of the policy recognizing property, not focusing on loans for individual housing loans. Recognizing property, not focusing on loans means that regardless of whether someone has had a previous loan, as long as they currently do not own any property, they can enjoy preferential down payment ratios and interest rates for first-time mortgage loans. This statement by the Ministry of Housing and Urban Rural Development is undoubtedly an attempt to stimulate the real estate market in cities where the property purchase restrictions are relatively strict. Previously, the policy was recognizing property and focusing on loans, mainly targeting the definition of a second property when buying a new one. If a buyer already owns a property, any subsequent purchase would be considered a second property. This was especially true if the buyer had a previous mortgage, regardless of whether it was paid off or not. For example, in Beijing, the current property purchase policy is recognizing property and focusing on loans, which means that if a person already owns a property or has any mortgage records nationwide, regardless of whether they are paid off, any subsequent home purchase would be considered the second property. The minimum down payment ratios for commercial loans are 60 for ordinary residential properties and 80 for non-ordinary residential properties. Yang Kan, chief analyst of real estate at Ping & Securities, believes that currently, in most non-restricted cities, the minimum down payment ratio for first-time home buyers is already at 20. However, in core first and second-tier cities, the minimum down payment ratio for first-time home buyers is still mostly above 30s. The Ministry of Housing and Urban Rural Development's proposal to reduce the down payment ratio for first-time buyers goes beyond market expectations. A report released on July 24 by eHouse China Rad Institute showed that from July 1 to 20, the transaction area of newly built commercial residential properties in 50 key cities in China declined by 33 compared to the previous month and 37 compared to the same period last year. The report indicates that the market performance in July has been weak and further downward risks are evident. Sun Liping, a professor at the Department of Sociology at Tsinghua University in Beijing, mentioned that over the past few decades, a significant amount of wealth in China has been combined with a large amount of debt, which has materialized into houses, infrastructure, and more. Now, it may be time to repay those debts, which could lead to a reduction in corporate investment and individual consumption. If a society lacks investment from enterprises and consumption from individuals, the economy will decline. Some commentators believe that the current state of China's real estate market requires reflection on many issues. It needs both fundamental institutional and legal reforms and immediate measures to address current contradiction. And that is today's episode. If you found this video informative, please subscribe and ring a bell to get notification. Thank you for watching and see you next time